This is Assassin's Creed Origins. It was released in 2017. It features Bayek in ancient Egypt. We will look into how these marvelous environments have been made, from modeling to textures to props to technical art information. This is our board where we will explore the work of some of the artists that worked on this great game. So let's get started with Emil Gruev, who is explaining what he did. So this post was about mastaba tombs. With my team, we created the mastabas of Giza in the game. There are those flat rounded trapezoid-shaped tombs that surround the pyramids in Giza. So he did modeling, mapping, polishing, debug, and setting up the groups together. The challenge here was to recreate how they were looking back then and to break those squarish structure so they have so that they can be more visually interesting to explore and to fit better into the world of the game. So one thing that's very important, especially with Assassin's Creed, is that these games are based on reality. They are based on, historical periods, right? So the artists, first thing they study all the documents that they can find, pictures. Of course, now it's ruins when we're talking about ancient Egypt, but there are also a lot of documentation on how they looked like. So that's the first phase. But we're still making a game. So, you have to translate those structures, you have to translate the architecture so that it works in the context of a game, regarding gameplay, regarding exploration, pacing, of course, level design, and all those things. So this is extremely important to understand. And of course, he worked as part of a team. And let's explore. So those mastabas are these structures right here. We can see the main one here. And of course, the majestic pyramids of Giza in the back. And we can appreciate some zoom ins. And this game is from 2017. It's quite a while ago, and it still holds up very well. Very, very well. And also that game was it's the first of the new formula of Assassin's Creed. The more open world, more RPG. They completely changed the formula, and this was the first one. This is, if you want, the reboot of Assassin's Creed, some kind of a reboot, and it's been extremely successful. And this one is not only a lot of fun to play, but it's amazing to explore. I mean, you got to be interested in ancient Egypt, which I am. I've been since I'm a kid, so that was kind of a no-brainer. But to anyone that I know who played this game, the environments are just breathtaking. Like, they did an amazing job, and today we can appreciate how they did it. So that's very interesting, and you can see the blend of the sand with the structure. And remember, this is a huge open world. Like, we can't afford super highly detailed models, so it looks very, very good. And now we can see the kits, and a very interesting thing, you see part of the kits themselves, the blending with the sand was done as part of the pieces, right? And you see there's some sand blending here. There might be also a way to blend those materials so that reusing those pieces, you can vertex paint and redistribute where the sand will be. So, for maximum reuse. So you can appreciate all the different pieces. This is a large kit, and then you can see, once assembled, different groups being assembled, right? And of course, it's in the same tones. It's using the same language, but they're not copy and paste, right? They're very similar, and they should be, but you can appreciate the variations. This is so interesting. And then you see a bigger one here from another angle, which looks very, very good. Great job on this one. More work from the same artist. Worked on another tomb, the No Marks tomb. So, and he's saying he mainly worked on tombs in this game. So with the level designers, he took part in helping constructing and defining the areas in them. Have worked on creating modules we use for all the tombs, creating the geometry and setting up the needed textures provided from the texture team. But we needed for different tombs, polishing and debugging them. So, you know, there is a fine line between level art and environment art. They are actually different roles, and we will expand on that in the future on this channel. Depending on some studios, it's different. Depending on some productions, on some type of games, the nature of these roles can be different. But all in all, the level artists have a huge implication on the gameplay. So they work with level designers and they establish the art. They are not art directors, but they are establishing some of the art direction for the environment artists, the 3D artists, and the texture artists. And then, of course, polishing debug. This is part of basically every role on a video game production, but for level artists and environment artists, it's a big one. There are a lot of tombs. This one is No Marks, except for the modules. Have done the level art for it, so also some set dressing, some there are so many things that goes into level art role, but assisting level designers and then assisting the artists and then set dressing, making everything come together actually at the end of the day. And then of course the credits of the rest of the team. It's never a solo role. So this one you have to enter through here. Then you can appreciate the beautiful lighting and the particles floating in the air and the mess, right, that's present because those tombs have been looted already by this point, and then there has been a fight with Romans probably. And here we have a shot of inside. Another one with a beautiful angle that we can see, a wider angle, and we can appreciate. And for those who have played, you can reminisce what you were doing. I remember this one very specifically. Such a good time playing this game. And then we see the kit with, again, all the hieroglyphs, all the details, and then the blending with the, because there was already a lot of weathering and wear and tear and, you know, destruction, erosion actually. And you have different columns, different heights, different shapes, variations, all those being part of this kit. Then we have more. Tomb of Djoser. So it's basically the same, worked with the level designers, creating the modules, creating the geometry, setting up the needed texture. So it's exactly the same workflow, exactly the same pipeline for a different, very different looking tomb, but you know, the way that they worked on it was the same. They have very well established pipelines, as you can imagine, so that the production doesn't take 10 years. And then we can see those pieces, which of course they have to be their own kit because they're very different, right? It's not just the material that you swap on them. You see the frames of I mean, it's a door frame, but there's no door. But of the door opening, everything is of a very different style than what we had earlier here, which was a bit more simple with some, you know, variations in the geometry, but much more simple with actually here. There was also a frame, but the style is different here. Style which needed different materials, more noble, more like richer materials right here. So this is very interesting. And then we have something a bit different here, very interesting also. So the Tomb Assassin's Creed are filled with mystery and undiscovered hidden chambers, some of them protected by puzzles or different challenges. So we had the pleasure to work on a lot of the interactable objects used in the game to create some challenges for the player. So there were puzzles with adjustable weight platforms, pushable objects, and challenges like breakable and sealed doors that are opened with sand mechanism. He did modeling, mapping, polish, and debug for them. And of course was part of a bigger team, as it's the case always. So yeah, those were a lot of fun, that you had to figure out how to raise a platform with the appropriate weight. And now you can see the kit. So see, they are composed of various different elements, and all of course tested by the level designers. Then you know there are a lot of gameplay implications because they are part of puzzles, they are interactable, so you only see the visual, like just the mesh, right, the asset itself, but there's a whole lot that goes into these things. And then again, for 8-year-old game, it's holding up very well, right? For a huge open world, like, you don't see tons of geometry, but just enough to make it believable that they're not just all super straight. You can appreciate some forms, some shapes into these old wooden beams. Very cool. I have something different here with a room filled with treasure. You can see here the back wall being here. Of course, those would be additional. And you have a broken version on the floor. You have a piece like that. You have so many pieces. Then you have more interactable objects, which are this is not exclusive to Assassin's Creed Origins. They kind of established kind of a pattern, or kind of a mini game, if I can say. In Odyssey, you have basically the same, but with different flavor, right? In Valhalla, you have some of that too. And Mirage, I'm not so sure. I haven't played a lot of Mirage, even though I really like the game. I haven't been into Tombs or anything similar. But yeah, those are they're staples of modern Assassin's Creed. So here you have another part with the doors that you can destroy so that you can pass. This is a specific texture. Of course, there is some interaction going on. There is some destruction, some interactability. So those have to be taken very seriously. And you see, this is one texture. You see how it's broken? It's one texture, which is blended with the, again, I will use the word flavor, like the other texture, the other material that is part of the walls of the tomb's location, right? So depending, see, this is the same, just now it has a yellow color onto it, yellow paint. And this is super interesting. We have more. So a lot of work was shared by this artist. So thank you very much. We really appreciate. So the Tomb of Khufu wanted to create the closest representation of the tomb, keeping in mind the comfort, gameplay, and navigation the game have, and in the same time to create interesting and unique moments that adds challenge and exploration for the player. We did unique models for this tomb that are inspired from the huge research we have done for the tomb, about the tomb, so we can achieve more accurate and believable result closer to the real tomb. So that is so important to understand what's said here, is that, again, for a game based on historical location and historical buildings, you gotta do a lot of research. It's not just colors, tones, and the shape, and that's it. Like, there is so much work, so much research that goes into it to keep it accurate as much as possible so that it's believable. But again, also, you have to understand it's a video game. It should be fun to navigate. it should work well with the gameplay, right? With the parkour, with the traversal, with the animation of the character, the abilities, and that's just at a very basic level. Uh, this is so important. And then you can see which something which looks like it's a very simple kit, but very, very important to have it very precisely made. Then the materials can be swapped. And then you have this, which is not so simple. It's a lot of organic shapes. So that required a whole lot of work, I'm sure, to get it right. So that is fantastic work. Thank you so much to the artist. Thank you for sharing. We really appreciate it. If you are interested in learning how to apply those techniques that we're covering while analyzing those games, I have created a class in which I show everything step by step. I show all the techniques, all the tricks. There are no time lapse, nothing is done off screen. And I take the time to explain what we do and why we do it. I show the best practices, and we are covering a small environment from A to Z. We are showing every single step of how it's done on a professional production. So if you are interested, check it out. There's the link in the description, and there's a discount available with the code provided. Next artist, we have Samuil Munis, which is the technical art director, and on the DLC of Assassin's Creed Origins, he worked on the terrain of various biomes of the world outside of locations. So basically, this is between locations, between cities, between temples, pyramids. And, you might consider this as the filler content of open worlds, but when it's done right, it's the content, right? It should be just as interesting almost. This is where you do quests. This is where you explore. You get to find a whole lot of things, and they did amazing things in Origins with the hallucinations, the mirages that Bayek was seeing. It was so interesting, so cool, and the sandstorms and all these things. But this is specifically for the Curse of the Pharaohs, which I must say, for me, it's one of the best DLC, bar none, ever. Like, it's on the level of Witcher 3 DLC, both Hearthstone, Heart of Stone, and Blood and Wine. It's one of the best DLCs ever, any genre. Like, it's absolutely amazing. It added so much to the game, and it's so various, and especially the biomes and the locations are so absolutely different. It brings a lot of new gameplay elements, and I couldn't believe, honestly. I played through it and I was like, I love the base game. I love the first DLC. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the first DLC. It was a bit shorter, interesting, but a bit short. But this one was absolutely amazing. It was so much content. I couldn't believe it. So this artist was part of it, so congrats. Let's hear it from him. So he worked in conjunction with the procedural artist Pavel Kalinov, who worked on the procedural scatter for vegetation and cliffs that was tied up and dependent on the terrain forms. So that's probably, most of you know of these kind of things as probably you refer to it as an auto material, like in Unreal Engine 5. It's kind of the same. When you have huge ground to cover, placing everything manually doesn't make any sense. Like, some specific locations, of course, you can retouch and you can adjust stuff, but you need to be able to scatter, be it trees, grass, rocks, whatever it is. And this is done with many different parameters, but the most commonly it's done with slopes and height variation. So yeah, it has many names, but basically it will scatter selected elements depending on the slope, depending on the elevation. So there's a bit more explanation. So the process was interesting and varied, as we had a lot of unique biomes crammed into a relatively small world. They had to look and feel interesting, but also have natural blending, something that in nature would happen over hundreds of kilometers. So that is quite the challenge. So we can appreciate the beautiful environments. And if you have played Origins and you have not played The Curse of the Pharaohs, please go ahead. Like, you have to do yourself a favor. It is very, very important. Very, very important. It's just as good, if not better, than the base game. And I love the base game, but you really have to play this. Moving on to other beautiful screenshots. And even, a lot of people thought initially, oh, it's going to be in the desert in Egypt, ancient Egypt. It's just a desert. Well, maybe most of this area today is mostly a desert, but still Egypt has very different biomes, and it's very, very interesting. And it used to be very different in centuries ago, if not millennia ago. So it has a lot of varied biomes, and it was depicted in an amazing way in the game. So a bit more here. So I'll try not to spoil anything. I don't think I will. So in The Curse of the Pharaohs, the world of the DLC is huge, and we had many distinct biomes. Combined with the huge view distance of the game, we had to cover large areas in the distance with something cheap but convincing. Cheap meaning underperformance, right? So part of his work was to create very low poly meshes that blend seamlessly with the much higher detail terrain. The meshes were textured in Substance Designer, as the terrain uses combination of materials working based on slope, elevation, and flow maps, or splat map, or many names refer to the same things. To achieve convincing replicas, I use material lookalikes and use masks to texture the meshes in the same way. So by material lookalikes, probably it's just like replicating the color and some of the shape, but way less detail than the ones that would be seen close up, right? So you can see some of those meshes. And in many cases, those are, like, I know everybody in school or studying game art are using Gaia because it's free, or there are others, right? In my time, it was a World Machine, which is outdated but still used today. Then there's Gaia that everybody uses, World Creator, which is not free, so not many people use it, but those are all amazing softwares. But in many cases, it's done by modeling, like Maya, Blender, 3ds Max. And I know this is 8 years old, but it's not only a matter of time. Like, a lot of games are using, especially in the distance, because what you can get with both Gaia or World Creator, whatever, you can have amazing terrain, like amazing looking mountains, ranges, and ridges, whatever. And they are somehow optimized, but you don't have full, like, you have a lot of control on creating them in the third-party software, but when you bring them in the engine, you don't have so much control. So this is why with a modeled mesh, you can instantly jump back to 3ds Max, Maya, Blender, then tweak, remove some geometry because it's not needed, simplify, change a little thing, and then jump back in the engine. So this is why it still is something used nowadays. But again, this is a game from 8 years ago. Then you have cliffs here that you can appreciate. That blends very well with the rest of the mountain and everything. Very nice shot here. Very, very cool. Then another version that you see in the distance. And yes, one of the strengths of Assassin's Creed games is the view, the draw distance. Like, this is what they heavily promote with their point of views, right? The synchronized locations. It has to work with the tech, because this is what they're showing, right? The camera jumps super high in the air, and then it shows super far away, and you see, and it looks good. Yeah, this is really the tech of the the engines of what Ubisoft has been using for Assassin's Creed, and it's true since like the first one. So that's, and they kept on improving it, right? So now something completely different. The same artist also worked on some more like props, right? On some kits. So wooden walls and towers for a Roman military fort. At first, it wasn't going to be a full kit, just a few modules. But he made the models and brought them to first art pass, visually and technically working. Also did a bit of work on the texture. That's interesting. Then second pass and debug was made by another artist, Anton Marinov. Also worked briefly on one of the Roman forts in Kyrenaika and in its initial design. Forts using the kit were designed by Dimitar Georgiev. Environment art was done by another artist, Enko Enchev, on all the Roman forts. So we can see, and if you play the game, you have been through these camps. And of course, they also have been the staples of the new formula. They are there in Odyssey, you find them in Valhalla, you find them pretty much everywhere. They have, of course, their unique flavor depending on the culture, the era, but it's basically based on the same thing. And you see how it's divided so that it's easily, like a level artist can come up and build a whole camp quite quickly. And once the pieces are modeled, textured, and tested, right, approved, like everything works, the collision and all that, then it works for all. So we can see more. You can see a little bit of a close-up here. And we can see more of the constructions. Next, we have a post about some more props, and this one is for Catapult and Silphium. So those are more props that were done. Catapult parts mostly used to show off the Roman military industry in the region. Few parts from he's showing different parts from different stages of production. Most of them can actually be arranged to form the full catapult, even though we use the complete mesh for it and not the parts, of course, for draw calls. As you may know, if you are, and there are many different, this is a scorpion, I believe, this is the catapult. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right here. So that's 6 draw calls only for the geometry. Then there are collisions, then there are materials. So that's not how it goes. When it's assembled, when we need it in one piece, it's one draw call for the geometry. Then you add the collision, then you add the materials, but it would make no sense, right? But they build it this way so that we can see in the environment. In some cases, it's broken down. It's like it's maximum reusability, right? You can have it complete. Like here we see, I guess, some, this is where they were building the siege engines. So you have some parts and you have some complete versions and some broken down versions. So you can use it at various stages, which is very, very cool. And it as you know, you do like, it's actually one asset, it's the catapult, and then you can use it to set dress a whole environment, which would be a workshop building catapults. Then you can use it as a one complete catapult and parts here and there laying down on the ground. So this is really a good way to work on this. And then you have those plans, and there is actually a lot of information on those plans, which is super interesting. I haven't read. So Silphium was one. I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. I believe it's pronounced Silphium. Was one of the most valuable plants in the ancient world, used in everything from medicine to food seasoning. We needed a lot of props to show large quantities of harvested plants as the main export of the region. The plant was never domesticated, so it was harvested to extension. So yeah, we probably don't have any more today. But this goes to show that it's not just a big empty open world filled with stuff. You know, we are exploring modularity and those Roman camps, and of course they are repetitive. Of course, you know, some people might have some complaints about gameplay wise that it's a bit repetitive. Art wise, it is repetitive, but the way that it's done is to minimize, I would say, the the fatigue that can, like the visual fatigue, which is, oh, it's just the exact same thing. No, there are some variations. They are the same pieces. It's, using the same type of gameplay, but it gets varied by adding challenges, enemies being more difficult, different path of approach to keep stealth, than, exploding jars and stuff like that. There are many, many things that keeps it fresh. And a great team, like the one working on Assassin's Creed, doing their research, their homeworks, they fill the world with stuff that's relevant and that's interesting. And it's very, very, very interesting and cool to see an artist working on some props like that, on some, military machine, on some camps, and then on some large meshes for the distant environment, for the vistas, and for the terrain. So that was quite the mandate for this artist, who did a lot of very, very varied work. So that was great. Next, we have Petar Zvezdanov, and let's read first. So on this game, at Ubisoft Sofia, he worked on the pyramids in the game, mainly 3D modules consisting of baked props from high poly meshes, as well as textures. So he used ZBrush and Substance Designer for the stone blocks, and the eroded rock decals covering the pyramids that the player can use as grabbing ledge. The main challenge here, due to the enormous size of these landmarks, was to make the baked props such as stone blocks as low poly as possible to ensure good performance on any platform. And yes, they are gigantic. Everything is gigantic about the pyramids. And when you look at it, I mean, they're probably, I've personally, I've never been on Giza. I wish I will one day, but I cannot say they are 1:1 ratio. They probably made them a little bit smaller because I believe they are very, very big, but still, it's super impressive. And you can see the character and the blocks next to him. This is very impressive scale, very, very large structure, and each block, which is how they were built, very, very impressive. And then you can see here those ledges, those decal ledges, which are the actual path that you can use to climb those structures. And you can see another very nice shot. Of course, as you can imagine, the pyramids were kind of an important feature from the game. So they paid a lot of attention to the small details, and they did an amazing job. This is a super good shot that we can appreciate the quality of the work, all the details, how those two sections work well together. It's very impressive. Here we have an overview shot, very, very nice with the complete structure. And those were such fun to get into, to find a way. And then in some cases there was like another opening, and like that was great. Those were great times, amazing moments, Assassin's Creed moments. Like this is gonna remain one of the really highlights of the series. And you can see this is so good. You can see the photo reference. Honestly, like the job is absolutely amazing. Like you can barely distinguish, like of course if you close up so much, but like even from here, I mean, the goal is not to replicate 100% the picture. It's just to preserve the essence, right? The nature of the materials. Well, even I would say even the lighting of this area, this region, it is really, really impressive. They did an amazing job. And of course, when you have an iconic location, such as, one of the main pyramids, it's really, really important to, well, pay attention to the small details. But yeah, that was done beautifully. And of course, you can see that in real life, this is what you get. But in the game, it probably didn't work so well to have this busy area full of different heights and different stuff. So they made it much much more readable that, oh, okay, this might be an entrance, right? This might be a, it's actually probably not even an entrance, but just a or it's a blocked entrance. You have to get there, and this is an important spot. So yeah, very interesting. And then we can see those meshes, which are composed of smaller blocks on this side to sell it, and then this is a, the side here is a one piece, and then those extruding like that, they are smaller bricks which are attached to the mesh, and it looks a very good pyramid. Stone block modules. Then you have a bigger one here, which, yeah, that was a lot of work, I can tell, to get it right. Putting stones together is one thing, but making them feel like it looks like the real thing, this is a whole different story. Then we have another one from another angle, very nice, another stone block models, and then you have those here, which again, they are geometry, right? Geometry assembled, and then assembled completely like that. Then you can see from another angle, very, very cool, with those ledges, the decals, creating the ledges that can be grabbed so that player can get there. And then you see the actual eroded stone decals. You see them on flat surfaces, and then we will go here, which is with proper lighting. And then you see the sculpt. So this was sculpted in ZBrush and then baked on decals. And this is a material done in, and that's really cool to have the photo ref here from the pyramid to have as a reference here. And then the cracked mud texture, which is, going around those pieces, and then the eroded stone blocks ZBrush. So, you can tell that those are high poly, and they needed to be scaled down and baked onto and you can tell it's very low poly. Let me find, I had one, I mean, they're all very good, but like you can tell here, it's very low poly, but there is so much normal information that it doesn't look like from a distance, you really can tell this is highly detailed, but then you zoom in, oh yeah, okay, I can see that it's actually pretty low poly, but it's like the bake is doing an amazing job going from this to much, much lower geometry count. Last but not the least, we have Nikolay Bonev, who worked mainly on textures. So he did the pink and red granite textures on the Giza Plateau, and polished some other textures. For the Sphinx of Giza, I did the body textures of the Sphinx and the stele prop in front of it. Pyramid tops, after taking the prototype geometry from Enko and Chev, I did the texture, he did the texture for them and polished the geometry with, of course, a large team of talented artists. Then we can appreciate what was done here with on the body of the Sphinx. Then we can appreciate it even more. You can see how detailed those are with different layers, different types of material, of bricks. It's very nice looking stuff. And then you can see here also it probably it's using some edge decals, or I mean it can be using a whole lot of things, but this is highly detailed. It's really those, I'm pretty sure this is edge decals, edge normal decals that is added to simple geometry, and it looks like it's like baked. So it might be baked also. I don't know for sure. Those parts maybe are, yeah, I believe maybe potentially those are baked because they're readable from a distance. You can really see, right? And it breaks the straight lines. Same here on this axis here, probably the same. And on some smaller parts, it probably is normal edge decals. We can see here with another type of material. Yeah, this looks very good. Remember, this is 8 years old, huge open world. So, you know, huge open world, you could compare with other games which are doing it like on a tighter budget, right? But here the quality is maintained. And you can see that's very cool. With different materials, we achieve a completely different look. Very, very interesting. Then we have something else from the same artist. This is from the Curse of the Pharaohs DLC, the Duat location, more precisely. So the Duat, which is the city of the dead and home of Tutankhamun, he was responsible for tweaking all textures in the Duat level and making some new. Created some assets, for example, the glowing lotus flower, the sitting Anubis statue, the woman-shaped brazier in the boss chamber, Spanish boss on the snake bones, and the snake sculpture on the highest sinking point in the game. I remember this super high. I couldn't believe that I had to go there, and it was a huge thrill. I remember this super high location. It was crazy high. So super highly detailed sculpt, right? Probably baked, much more affordable mesh, super nice texture. This brazier, same we see with the final textures, looks very good. And you can appreciate, yeah, the sinking point must be here. If I remember correctly, this area is fantastic. And you're fighting clones of Egyptian gods. I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything, but come on, you got to play this game. It's just fantastic. If you are interested in Assassin's Creed or in ancient Egypt, you owe it to yourself to play this game. And if you're interested in both, well, you have played this game. If you have interest for both of them, and this area is so cool. It's really something else. It's really taking the game to another level. I played it blind, didn't know what to expect, and gosh, was I surprised by everything. I'm not going to spoil anything for those who haven't played, but please do so. It is just fantastic. So here you have the big lotus flowers. And yeah, this environment is just crazy. So different from the rest of the game, and it's just one of the many locations of this DLC. And it's quite big. It's quite big, and there's plenty to do. If I remember correctly, there are plenty of side quests also. Yeah, this was great. Now another contribution, the Tomb of Djoser that we saw earlier from another artist. So he did the blue faience textures and the breakable door texture. So we have seen those, right? Remember this texture and the breakable wall. So he did, we don't have a breakdown, but we have seen it on many different walls, right? So that's very cool. And then the last post that we have here is same artist from the Roman bath. So he did the white marble bricks, red and black marble column textures, mosaic floor textures, and yellow pool tiles, and a ceiling plaster texture. So, I mean, this is kind of another game. It's kind of feels kind of a different era, right? This is not gonna spoil anything, but it's one part that is, yeah, you are in a Roman setting, and you have a Roman palace, and it feels completely different, right? And here you have very beautiful post of those textures. So thank you very much to the artists. This is a great exploration of ancient Egypt, of Assassin's Creed, and on how it's done. If you are interested in these things, I have many more videos on previous and upcoming Assassin's Creed. I mean, of course, they have to have been released, but what I mean before and after Origins, mostly after. So there, I have a video on Valhalla, I have a video on Odyssey, I have a video on Shadows, and they are all amazing. And you can learn different things by paying attention to the details that are posted by the artists. So thank you. Take time to check out the other videos. You might be very interested in learning new things. Thank you very much.